So yesterday there was an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate. The candidate survived with minor injuries and the assassin was killed at the scene. It was later revealed that he was of the same political party as the presidential candidate. Immediately, political figures condemned the violence and tried to use it to appeal for unification. This is basically the right thing to do. I just think most of us understand that it's empty rhetoric, similar to the threats of civil war we hear every day. I was a child of the 90s. I was young enough to get in on the information revolution as it happened. I was in college at the time, but I had serious autodidactic tendencies. I had multiple hobbies that I taught myself. Being able to just look up the information I needed was amazing. But this was the beginning of hitting a faster-than-light travel button for information intake. Now, 30 years later, we're inundated by information on all sides. What's crazy is we don't seem to have the willpower to self-limit. I'm guilty of this too. Boredom is horrendous. It's painful. I always filled the void with hobbies. But now boredom has gotten so much worse. Sitting for 10 minutes without your phone in a waiting room is excruciating. It seemingly lasts for 30 minutes. That's a testament to the speed we live our lives at in the information age. We're still just opening our eyes to it and trying to shift to prevent serious consequences. But for notions like democracy, the checks and balances that used to work in the past now sort of resemble a dam of sticks that used to work, but it's being tested by changing weather conditions. The weather isn't going to get better, but we have to tear down the dam and rebuild it for future storms. But if we tear it down, all civilization downstream gets flooded. So we've been tasked with rebuilding in stormy conditions without allowing the dam to fail. There's two schools of thought though. One side would tear it down and rebuild it quick. Even though civilization downstream will be destroyed, they will rebuild that too. The other school of thought will try to preserve the status quo and rebuild while the system is still operating. Both schools have their strengths and failures. Starting over from scratch would likely create the situation of a stronger build for the dam, but everything downstream has to be rebuilt too. Maintaining civilization downstream means the build upstream will not be ideal, because certain obsolete portions will have to be maintained and strengthened rather than being torn down and rebuilt. Of course, the workable solution is the path through the middle. Maintain what you can, but be prepared for some catastrophes. But the school that just wants to tear everything down has a job that's 1,000 times easier than the school who wants to keep it together and build it up. Nudging a balanced situation one direction or the other is much easier than trying to keep the balance. Good faith between statesmen was what kept the Highwire Act going. But now the agents are fighting and one side doesn't care if it falls. Stochastic terrorism. Information is on full blast to maximum effect to individuals around the world. 80% of households around the world have a TV. 65% have cell phones. Information travels instantaneously. Aspiring leaders who desire violent uprising understand they can't directly appeal to violence because of the legal consequences and culpability until they have power themselves. So they speak in such a way as to infer violent action. Then when it happens, they misdirect or deny. As a civilized society, we have to stick to innocent until proven guilty, but some take advantage of the system. Stochastic terrorism refers to the use of rhetoric or communication that incites violence or terroristic acts without directly calling to such actions. Here are the key aspects of the concept. Indirect incitement. Stochastic terrorism involves language or statements that encourage or inspire individuals to commit violent acts, often by exploiting existing social tensions or grievances. Randomized nature. The term stochastic implies randomness. While the rhetoric may target specific groups or individuals, the actual acts of violence are unpredictable and may be carried out by any number of people who feel motivated by that rhetoric. Consequences. Stochastic terrorism can contribute to a culture of fear, increase social divisions, and encourage violence, often making it difficult to hold specific individuals accountable for the actions of others. Legal and ethical implications. The concept raises questions about free speech, accountability, and the responsibilities of public figures in their use of rhetoric. Remember, the side that wants to tear down everything doesn't care how it happens. The ends justify the means. So something so belligerently irresponsible like inciting stochastic terrorism is something they're willing to do. Media driving misrepresentation. Along with the chaotic battle between two schools of thought in politics, We have a market-driven media in which chaos and catastrophe sell. The entire model is based on sales. If there's nothing catastrophic happening, then the media misrepresents situations for maximum effect, for sales. Politicians also use these tactics on both sides. A lot of time people ask, why do the media do this? But the real question is, why do the masses crave chaos and catastrophe? That's the question I always ask myself. I'm the same way. So using myself as a model, I'd say it's because our lives are so boring from day to day, so monotonous. When something out of control or chaotic happens, we escape from the monotonous drudgery of our everyday life. Also, mass death, such as a tsunami that wipes out hundreds of thousands of people, reminds us how fragile life is. The sheer power of it draws interest and sales for media companies. Humans' desire for conflict can be attributed to several psychological, social, and evolutionary factors. Evolutionary perspective. Conflict may have historically provided advantages in terms of resources, territory, and mating opportunities. In this view, competition and conflict would enhance survival and reproductive success. Psychological needs. Conflict can arise from fundamental human needs such as the desire for power, control, and validation. Engaging in conflict may help individuals assert their identity or social status. Cognitive dissonance. People may desire conflict to resolve contradictions between their beliefs and behaviors. Engaging in conflict can serve as a way to reinforce one's beliefs by opposing others. So we had an assassination attempt yesterday on a presidential candidate. That presidential candidate would like to see all of civilization burn to rebuild it in the image of what his party wants. He has an easy job. He only has to destroy what's in place. He doesn't have to maintain it. I'm not saying they won't build, but typically what they build will edge us closer to chaos, not further away. Media companies are complicit because humans are bored, so selling chaos makes money for them. But they only sell chaos because that's what we en masse react to. They only do what we want, and that's what creates momentary perspective in our lives. Tragedy and chaos. Who could ever give a neat prescription to cure this complex, destructive condition? Perhaps an advanced AI. For now, the human race is stuck in turbo boost mode with two people fighting over the wheel, one turning the car towards the cliff and accelerating, and the other turning it away and braking. That's the current state of democracy. If you guys like this kind of subject matter, help us grow the channel by liking the video and subscribing.